CEO Brian Thompson may have just taken a bizarre turn. And that is because federal authorities say someone may have tried to get Luigi Mangione out of jail. According to a new criminal complaint, a man allegedly walked into a Brooklyn federal jail, claimed he was an FBI agent, and said he had paperwork signed by a judge to release an inmate. Now, based on certain circumstances, it is believed to be Mangione. How did he think that this would work if the allegations are true? Was he close to actually pulling this off? And what does it mean for Mangione's case? We're going to break it all down with a prison consultant who knows the system inside and out. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. The targeted execution-style alleged murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a Midtown Manhattan street was already a shocking crime. One of the most shocking crimes we've covered in recent memory. And the accused killer, Luigi Mangione, was captured 5 days later, has been locked up ever since, awaiting two massive trials, a state trial, a federal trial. But now, we have just learned of what appears to be yet another bizarre moment in this saga. Now, we can't say for sure it's connected to Mangione, but when you connect some of the dots, I think it might be a fair assumption. So federal authorities are now claiming that a man from Minnesota walked right up to the federal jail in Brooklyn last night where Mangione is being housed and tried to pose as an FBI agent. He apparently claimed he had a judge's order to release a specific inmate, and law enforcement, if you're reading between the lines, may be saying that that inmate was Mangione. Now, when guards asked for his credentials, he apparently showed a Minnesota driver's license. In his bag that was searched by authorities, not official paperwork, but a barbecue fork and what looked like a pizza cutter. Now, if all of this is true, how on earth did he think that this would work? What does that say about the security? I mean, did he get close? Really? What was the plan here? And by the way, what happens next for Mangione? I mean, is he due back in court tomorrow? We're going to break down this stunning new criminal complaint line by line. We're also going to be talking with prison consultant Justin Paperny, who knows this system inside and out, about how an attempt like this can even happen. But for viewers just joining us, really very quick recap of the case at the heart of all this. So Luigi Mangione is accused of the point-blank fatal shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside of a Midtown Manhattan hotel in December of 2024. And authorities allege it was a meticulously planned, targeted attack. Mangione was arrested days later in Pennsylvania. He's been held without bail ever since. And remember, he is facing not one, but two major trials, one in state court for murder and another in federal court in the Southern District of New York, where prosecutors are seeking the death penalty, or trying to. It is a high-stakes, high-profile case that we have been following very, very closely. And that is what makes this...
Yeah, so as you already know, as I said now, he's got two cases, one with the state and one with the feds. The one with the state won't be as serious as the one with the feds. Once the feds are involved, just know that most likely, I think they got above 90% conviction rate. So once the feds are involved, just know your case, most likely, highly likely that you'll win. Also, another thing is people in these type of situations, especially once you get locked up, they will try escape. They will attempt to do those kind of things. So for someone to come there to try get him out based on having to present some documents for his release, that is possible. Once you're in prison or in that type of situation, a person is capable of anything. So for that attempt or alleged attempt, that attempt is most likely.
New development, just so stunning. Because while Mangione sits in the Federal Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn awaiting his next court date scheduled for tomorrow, authorities say someone may have tried an almost unbelievably bold scheme to get him out. Now, to be very clear, the federal complaint that we're about to discuss does not actually name Luigi Mangione. The inmate is only referred to as a specific inmate in custody. However, a law enforcement source directly involved in the case has confirmed to multiple news outlets that the inmate in question was indeed Luigi Mangione. Let's talk about it. All right, joining us to break all of this down, prison consultant, friend of the show, Justin Paperny. Justin, thank you so much for coming on. It's breaking news. Got you on so quickly. Have you heard of something like this before? I mean, it sounds like something out of a movie, but I do wonder, how easy is it for somebody to maybe pose as an agent, as a member of law enforcement, say the right things, get somebody out of jail?
Well, the first part is right. This is exactly like what we would see sensationalized on television. It was successful once in the movie Catch Me If You Can, where Leonardo played Frank Abagnale as a pilot and he flew the plane. That was a very long time ago. But people see something on television, like someone breaks into a prison or they walk in, they give a dramatic speech and they're going to release the person. They're just delusional. And I think when someone is in crisis and they're spiraling, they're looking for meaning. And if they're a fan of someone, they think they're a hero. So it's very easy to play the part and put on the costume. But when you have a prison that is trained for deception and these sorts of things, knowing there is a protocol to release someone, in about 17 seconds they realize we're dealing with someone who isn't stable, and they did the right thing by finding out if he had any weapons. He did, and they arrested him. So it's easy to dress the part, nearly impossible to execute it.
Can you elaborate on that, what the protocol is in place? If there was to be a release that wasn't in the news, right? There wasn't an appeal or a habeas motion where the conviction was overturned. They have to be immediately released. If there was some other reason for an agent to go in there and take somebody out pursuant to a court order, how much advance notice does a jail, a prison get? What is the protocol as far as you know?
So there's a chance the prison can find out the day before. That's happened to people in our community. A case manager calls you in and said, you're going out tomorrow, you're getting released, you're getting transferred. But there's a process in place that could take weeks or even months. A writ goes to a judge, the judge signs it, it goes to the marshals, they coordinate with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, the Bureau of Prisons notifies the warden, there's paperwork along the way, there's checks and balances. Even when I surrendered to a minimum security camp a long time ago, I had 9 separate people ask me 9 times my name, my Bureau of Prisons number, and I was going to a camp. So one thing they have is a process that they follow, and it's the reason they knew in about 6 seconds this wasn't legitimate, and they did the right thing by making sure he did not cause harm to anyone, including himself.
Is there a possibility he could have fooled them? Maybe not him specifically, but I have to be completely honest about this. Again, the court paperwork doesn't officially say that he was trying to release Mangione, but based on some of the other circumstances, let's assume that for a moment. Given the high-profile nature of this case, given the fact that there are a lot of people who have support for Mangione, are in his camp, there's a ton of money being raised, I gotta say, I'm not surprised that this happened. I actually wonder if this is going to be the last time we see something like this. But could there have been a set of circumstances where if somebody had the right documentation, said the right things, was a really good, con artist, and let's be clear, this individual is innocent until proven guilty. Is the system foolproof? Could there have been a scenario where he could have been busted out, and then what?
I don't think there's any scenario unless it was an inside job, unless this person is coordinating with someone who works inside of the institution to enable and make it happen. And again, that's right out of television as well. So given the problems at MDC over the years, starting with Epstein and the accusations these guards weren't properly doing their job, it's heightened alert times a million inside of that prison, especially when you have so many high-profile prisoners coming in and out of there. So in no world would he have been successful. And sometimes, like, when this person is clearly going through some crisis, if true, and sometimes when going through crisis, the last thing you want to do is move like slowly and deliberately to improve your life. You make really quick, short-sighted action. So 10 or 30 minutes of his life could lead to a very lengthy federal prison sentence. I wish he thought it through, and if true, I hope he gets help that he desperately needs, because had he discussed this with anyone rational, they'd have said, dude, stop immediately, please. You will never be successful.
As I said before, people in these type of situations are desperate, so they'll do anything. Even if it doesn't seem logical, they will still attempt to do such a thing. Also, another thing is that in a prison, there's multiple cameras. There's cameras all over. There's multiple entry and exit points. So for you to escape, even if you're helped by anybody, is a very difficult task to accomplish. You go to prison, do not attempt things like this, because as I said, it's very difficult, highly unlikely that you'll be successful, and highly likely or guaranteed that they'll add additional charges to your case.
The trial hasn't even started yet. Does this give you concern about what we can expect moving forward as this case advances, what the security might be, whether it's at a jail, whether it's at a prison, whether it's at a courthouse? Never seen a case like this before in my life. I really
it's a little bit. Yeah, it's a little like the Batman. Some people are trying to break out the Joker, with all due respect. I mean, it is not normal. And what happens is, the longer he's in custody, people who view him as a hero and they want to help him, they view him, this is unfair, this is unjust, he should be free, he should have a bracelet on, we've raised enough money for bond, he should be in the community, other people accused of similar crimes are. So the longer that narrative hardens, the more people become emboldened to try to help him. So you can expect when the trial begins for there to be hundreds, if not thousands of people outside the courthouse, and the closer we get to some verdict, the worse it's only going to get. Now, in federal cases, there will not be cameras inside of the courtroom. I wish there were, because you could see full transparency in what's said on both sides. And when you can't hear it, you hear it from other people. And then that narrative will harden and move on in time. So expect it to build the closer to the trial.
I want to go through this criminal complaint line by line because I think it's really important. So this is the document where the agent lays out exactly what he claims happened. It is a wild read, but the government story starts with a specific time and a specific place. Quote, on or about January 28th, 2026, at approximately 1850 hours, the defendant Mark Anderson approached the intake area inside the MDC and claimed to uniformed members of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, BOP, that he was an FBI agent in possession of paperwork signed by a judge authorizing the release of a specific inmate who was in custody at the MDC. Okay, so 6:50 p.m. last night, the intake area, the front door of the jail, he walks up, basically says, I'm an FBI agent. Incredible. Now, of course, the guards, they ask for proof. And here's what the complaint says. When asked to provide federal credentials, the defendant Mark Anderson displayed his Minnesota driver's license to the BOP officers and then claimed to be in possession of weapons. Okay. Anderson also displayed and threw at the BOP officers numerous documents. I have reviewed those papers, and they appear to be related to filing claims against the United States Department of Justice. Justin, I gotta say, there's a part of it where he goes in with this level of authority, but he had nothing. I mean, if the allegation's true, nothing to back it up, and shows kind of that erratic behavior. It was nothing even about, it seems, about that inmate.
Yeah, to me, it shows that he spent about 15 seconds planning this. An ID grabs, I think I read it was like a barbecue pitchfork or something akin to that.
Let me get that. Let me throw that quote. Mark Anderson was detained by members of the BOP, and a backpack he possessed was searched to reveal a large barbecue-type fork and a round steel blade. Tell me, this kind of pizza cutter with these weapons. What do you think? What was the plan?
There was no plan. I think he's not thinking clearly. A lot of television where you presume because you have the costume on and you have an ID and you have a letter from a judge, they're going to release you. It's like, I'd love to go to the bank this afternoon and say a judge or someone signed off that my mortgage is paid, wipe it clean. They'd laugh me out of the bank or arrest me. He just didn't think it through. And to think that you could, walk in with weapons like that in a letter, it's kind of like thinking you can rob, Fort Knox with a plastic sword. There was just no thinking through it. And now what they'll do, what a prosecutor will do, they will go through every alleged offense. So it's like doctoring documents, a weapon, and before you know it, it could be a long time in prison. And if guilty and there are health issues, I pray he gets treatment he needs. But what we have seen in the past is, and we've covered this before, we've covered it where a guard may sleep with an inmate, then it happens again and again. We don't want to see that copycat where it emboldens a person to say, this is where he did it wrong. I'm going to learn from his mistakes and I'm going to correct what he did wrong, and I'm going to do it right and get him out of here. The first tends to lead to another, and that's something that the authorities need to look out for and be alert.
The course is very well organized. It's very easy to understand with the information that's given. The support for the community is important, and I think that.
Now, we have learned from new reporting that there's a hearing expected tomorrow in Mangione's federal case. We believe the judge is expected to rule soon on whether it's going to be a death penalty case. The Manhattan DA's office has asked the judge to set a July 1st trial date. They say they're ready. Jury selection in the federal case already scheduled for September 8th, although the U.S. Attorney's Office has said that it expects the state case to proceed first. How complicated do you expect this to be in terms of his multiple trials, perhaps multiple phases? What's your take on it?
My take is that, of course, it's very complicated, and if they pursue the death penalty, it's because they're 100% convinced they're going to get a conviction for that. And it aligns with the messaging right now, I think, of this administration of holding people committing violent crimes to justice. And in this instance, they believe by pushing it that it could require the death penalty. So if they're pushing for it, they think they are going to be successful. And again, that will upset people for myriad reasons. We'll see, but it's an incredibly complex case, and it continues to get more attention over time. And to your point earlier, as trial approaches, it's going to be very popular. A lot of attention.
Do you think events like this will influence that decision, or influence in the way, maybe even the way the trials are held, maybe the security protocols? I'd have to imagine so, even the way that he's transported back and forth. But also, do you think it's going to affect the decision making in this case, in your experience?
Zero, nothing. I think the U.S. Attorney's Office has an end in mind. I think they want him convicted. They want him sent. They want him to endure they want death. And they've said it from the beginning. So I don't think anything gets in the way of their end game, seeing him executed.
And real quick, the security put in place now for every hearing, for the trial. Can you imagine what the crowd is going to look like on day one of either jury selection or opening statements in a trial? What that scene is going to look like outside the courthouse, inside the courthouse? Are you aware of any additional protocols, any additional resources that would be needed for something like this?
I've seen it. I've been to 1,500 sentencings in my career to support people of the white-collar advice community facing a sentencing hearing primarily for a white-collar crime. But in advance of that, an MS-13 gang member, someone sentenced, even if they've been in custody this entire time, usually at a white-collar crime sentencing, there may be no marshal in the room, or one if the judge wants to take that person into custody. But I've just been to sentencing hearings with violent crimes, 8 or 9 marshals, all on total lockdown, all high alert, people going through metal detectors before they get into the prison. So you can absolutely expect that throughout the entire circus that will be this trial. There is no doubt.
Justin Paperny, thank you so much for jumping on. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can also check us out on NBC's Peacock. We got Sidebar episodes up there too. And if you want to follow me, X, Instagram, or check out my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you next time, everybody.